I want you to take a moment to be honest with yourself in this exact second here. Because how many of you would have said, if you're a Michigan basketball fan, a month ago, 2 months ago, 3-ish months ago, that you'd be looking at Michigan having what we would call the Roddy Gayle game in arguably the biggest moment of the entire year for the Wolverines? That's exactly what we got on Saturday, and because of it, Michigan's headed to the Sweet 16. Let's talk about Michigan's win, not just today, Saturday, but also a little bit of what happened on Thursday on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is a happy Saturday indeed. Hail, hail to the victors valiant. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group, not on the ground in Denver because I'm on the ground for football things. Per usual, we could talk pro day and all that stuff. We'll probably get to that Monday because there were some interesting things that came out of that. But obviously, we need to talk about what's happened Thursday as well as today, more so today. Really, all I want to say about Thursday is who really saw this coming? Like, just in general, based off of what happened on Thursday, right? Because Michigan never really asserted itself against UC San Diego. And the Tritons kind of gave Michigan all it could handle. Even when Michigan started to it did its typical thing of kind of get a relatively comfortable lead and then let UC San Diego come back, and then before you know it, they've got a lead with 3 minutes left. So to play Texas A&M, now granted, I had a good feeling that they were going to win this game, as a lot of people had kind of, I think, aptly put it, they are like Michigan State light. But when you had to feel when there's 15 minutes left in the game, like this isn't going to go good for Michigan, right? They're down like 10 at that point. I know with 13 minutes left, they were down 10. And then Roddy Gayle comes alive in a way that I don't think anyone would have anticipated, building upon the fantastic month of March that he's had. I mean, he has just been a completely different player since the Big Ten tournament started. And Michigan did a lot of the things that you didn't really expect them to do in general. It's pretty stellar that they were able to do this. 91-79. Obviously, some of that score got kind of inflated because Texas A&M was trying to cut it and just couldn't, and end up having to keep on putting guys on the line. But Roddy Gayle has a team high and a career high of 26 points in order to beat Texas A&M, advancing to the Sweet 16. The last 6 times Michigan's made the tournament, they've made the Sweet 16. And it's a really huge accomplishment for Dusty May to take over an 8-24 team and turn it into this. It's really, really incredible because, like, really, it was kind of like anything that they were able to get was gravy. Now, here's the incredible thing, and we'll talk a little bit about where does Michigan go from here in probably segment 3, but you can't count this team out in any given game. Every game is a one-game season, and this team is kind of built for that in a lot of ways, right? Because, like, you would think that, okay, you know, like, they're going to come up against a team that is like a phenomenal rebounding team, right? Like that's where Michigan State really gets Michigan, right? They out rebound like crazy. And like, if you remember, we did a post game after the first MSU game and it was like, okay, substantial rebounding disparity. And then you're facing a team that's theoretically even better at rebounding than Michigan, or not Michigan State. And Michigan actually wins the rebound battle by 9. They had 48 rebounds to 39. And when it came to offensive rebounds, Michigan actually beat them by 1, 16-15. Both teams relatively even in terms of field goal. Michigan picked it up late with the late runs, the 15-2 run that they went on, 9-0 run after that, and 43% to 38%. But for most of the game, they were both around 38%. It's just that Texas A&M never really rose above that. Michigan kept on going. But it's Roddy Gayle. Roddy Gayle scored what was it? It was like 12 straight points off the bench. Comes in and hits 2 threes, some key layups, a couple free throws. It just was absolutely phenomenal. 4 of 6 from 3. Remember the Purdue game? What are we talking? A week and a half ago? Not even. It's a week ago, right? It was a week ago that we're talking the Purdue game. a week and a day, and Roddy Gayle hadn't hit a 3 until that game since January 24th, and he hit 4 in this game. 4 threes, 7 of 14 from the field, hit all 8 free throws. Absolutely unbelievable that he was able to come in and do what he was able to do. No one would have counted on that. No one would have believed you a week and a half ago. It'd be like, yeah, Michigan's going to get past a highly ranked Texas A&M team, a team that's ranked number 18 in KenPom. They're going to get past them because Roddy Gayle is going to come in when things are looking dire, and he's just going to light it up like it's NBA Jam. That's basically what happened. They're actually even up to 17 after the, I got to check. Actually, this is, I don't think I refreshed it. This was Thursday. All right. Texas A&M is up to 20. Michigan moved all the way up to 19. Still not quite there. But really phenomenal job by Roddy Gayle in particular. And then just some key defensive moments. Danny Wolf and Vlad Goldin with some really big blocks. The second straight game that Vlad Goldin had like a large portion of the game left and 4 fouls and still managed to stay in. I mean, it's really impressive that he's able to do that alone, because it was the UCSD game on Thursday. It was like 10 minutes left in the first half that ended up being the case. And then and then this one was more like 6 minutes left, but it's like, oh, they need him, right? Because they didn't have the 10-point lead that they eventually had. I mean, they won by 12, but they had gotten up to 10, and then suddenly the Aggies cut it to 5, and it's like, ooh, it's the last guy you really want fouling out at this point, because he's still Mr. Reliable. 23 points in the game, double with 12 rebounds. So really phenomenal game for him. Danny Wolf just missed a double, 14 points, 9 rebounds. Not the best game for a couple other guys. Namari Burnett, an offer on this game, only played 13 minutes, just didn't really look like his heart was in it today. Like, it just kind of looked like some load management needed to happen for Namari Burnett, which coming off of like last game was pretty good. He didn't have like tons of points, but he looked really good, and he was really good in the Big Ten tournament. Trey Donaldson kind of fell off a little bit, but still had some super clutch plays late. That was the absolute key. Like, when it came time to where it's like, Trey, you've absolutely got to get something. He has that late bucket to push Michigan to the point where it was like, okay, now they're going to win the game, right? It was him that ended up doing that. I mean, otherwise, mostly everybody that played got, scored, did their job. Will Shetter was the only one who kind of didn't. I had Namari Burnett. Will Shetter had 2 points. Those were 2 of the 3 free throws that he was afforded. That was also a key point too, right? Michigan actually needed all 3 at that point, but I guess it doesn't end up mattering in the end. All right, let's continue talking about this game now that I look at the clock. Let's continue talking about this game and then where Michigan goes from here. We'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, as you can tell right now, we are all about the stats because numbers don't lie. When it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds and can quite literally carry the whole team plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. To take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment, but I don't know about you, but for me, daylight savings snuck up on me again. And if you lost that hour of sleep, like most of you did, if you're not in Arizona, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost or maybe a lot of boost to power you through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up late watching a mix of the NCAA tournament, as well as I just watched The Residents on Netflix. That was really cool. And 5 Hour Energy helps me keep up the next day. With longer days, I love getting outside for a hike, maybe even a run, maybe someday. Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick burst. So head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Well, grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. really phenomenal. I just can't get over how that game went because it felt, this was the type of game where it's like Michigan starts off kind of early and you kind of sit there and you look at it and you say, oh, they could maybe win this game, right? Like the teams felt relatively even, but I think when Texas A&M took it from being a 1-point Michigan advantage with about like 90 seconds or something like that left. I might have my time off there, but it was something like that. No, it was 3 minutes left, I think, in the first half. And then they still kind of had that lead for a minute. And then before you know it, Michigan's down 4. And then they start off the half where it's like, okay, now Michigan cuts it to 2, and then Texas A&M pushes it back to 4. Michigan cuts it to 2, and then before you know it, Texas A&M starting to run away with this thing. This was the type of game where it felt like 10 points felt like 20, at least on the end with Texas A&M being up. I didn't necessarily feel like it was comfortable for Michigan when it was up 10 to be like, yeah, they can just hang on here, even though defensively they were playing quite well. But Texas A&M was just playing better in terms of points per possession. Unfortunately, for some reason, the stat broadcast that has all those fun extra stats refreshed. So to the next game, the Wisconsin, BYU game. So I can't see all the fun things that I wanted to talk about today. But nonetheless, I mean, like at one point until Roddy Gayle late, Texas A&M was even in the field goal percentage. They had a lead in the 3-point percentage. And they were doing better from the free throw line. Michigan ended up being better in pretty much every metric. They ended up leading in all of those. They ended up leading in rebounds, offensive and defensive rebounds. They ended up leading in assists. They end up being way under in steals. Texas A&M got 7 steals. I think here's the more kind of impressive thing. Michigan, like they went up against the team that was going to turn them over a ton, and they turned, and talking about UCSD, they turned Michigan over a fair amount, but it was about even with just kind of any normal game. And Michigan followed up with being a bit better. 9 turnovers in this game, and they ended up forcing Texas A&M, who only had 1 in the first half, into 8, which was not the case until relatively late. So pretty huge for Michigan as far as that. Defensively, Michigan had 6 blocks. You love seeing that. And I think one of the things that's somewhat underrated, Michigan went to the free throw line 10 more times than Texas A&M. They forced them into double bonus early, both halves. And it didn't necessarily pay off that much in the first half, but obviously it very much did in the second, because that was kind of part of what it was. And it forced Texas A&M to, especially as they were really struggling to score from the floor kind of late. And Michigan did for a while in that Roddy Gayle going nuts, NBA Jam on fire type moment. That was really, really positive for them for a minute. But then Michigan got a little cold, and that's when Texas A&M cut it to 5. And then Trey comes out. He has that next shot. I think if my memory serves right. It's hard for me to really remember the sequence of events because you do so much right after a game when you're in my position. But ends up going really well. Also, just want to give a shout out to LJ Kason, who just is looking better and better as a true freshman, right? Like, remember, Fat Brooks was supposed to be the guy, right? He's Mr. Basketball in the state of Michigan. He was probably thought to be the guy. LJ Kason was committed to UCF not UCF, FAU. He's committed to FAU, and he flipped over after Dusty May came to Ann Arbor. And I don't think anyone would have thought twice if he didn't come, right? Like that just shows how important he's been. He had 11 points in this game, hit one of the threes that Michigan, one of the 6 threes. There were only 3 players that hit threes, 4 from Roddy Gayle and 1 from LJ Kason and 1 from Reuben Jones. Now, I would like to politely ask Reuben Jones to not attempt threes. Even when he makes them, it's just like, he's 1 for 4 from 3. It's like he's good for like one of them, but it just always feels like, oh man, it's like you see him in the corner, ball comes his way, you know what's happening, and it's like, please don't. I kind of feel the same way about Will Shutter. Like both have their moments. They did against UCSD, and I think they each did against Wisconsin. Actually, I'm thinking just about the Wisconsin game, but it's just like you see him get the ball in your hands, like just please don't. It's just like, I feel like the whole arena of Michigan fans should just yell no in that moment. It reminds me of like Dennis Norfleet, being back in the end zone in 2014, He's standing in the end zone, kickoff, he reaches in his hands. I swear everyone would just yell, no, because he's like, I'm going to take it. That's how I feel about it. But anyhow, huge win for Michigan. Michigan advances to the Sweet 16, going to Atlanta. Got to figure out who they're going to play. That's going to be the interesting thing because it's either going to be 1 seed Auburn or 9 seed Creighton. There's 8 minutes left in that game. Auburn has a 10-point lead at halftime. Creighton led by 2. So Auburn's come alive. So that it kind of looks like Michigan's going to play the 1 seed, but you can kind of see, Auburn, I just want to, we're going to talk about this in a moment. So let's just do that. Let's talk about it in a moment. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So we'll be back here momentarily. All right. By the time that any of you hear this, watch this, Michigan's opponent will be obvious. It's looking more obvious as I'm watching the game cast right now. Auburn is up by 12 on Creighton with 7.5 minutes left. So let's assume that Michigan's going to play Auburn, barring an insane comeback by Creighton. Auburn's just really flexing at the moment. This was thought to be the best basketball team in the country. So this is where it's kind of difficult for Michigan. But now Michigan has its opportunity to be that 2013 team, right? But keep in mind, we watched that 2013 team thinking like this is a Michigan team that has the capability of winning a national championship, but others didn't see it that way. And then you had Kansas, who was not the number 1 team as Auburn is, but ended up looking like the number 1 team, right? Like when those two teams hit the floor, I remember I just got done having surgery. And so I was like bedridden. I was like laying down watching the game. And it was like 2 days before that I got home from the hospital, if that. And it was like Kansas took the floor and it was like, oh no. And then Michigan ends up winning it, right? That was a much more a better ranked Kansas team than Michigan. Like wasn't like Michigan. I'd have to look and see, but that's kind of what made that special. I think it's going to be kind of similar, but it's going to look even more of a disparity because Michigan being a 5 seed is looking more and more egregious. Big Ten is 10-0 so far in the Big Ten, or not in the Big Ten, but the NCAA tournament. SEC just keeps losing out. The only teams that are still in it, Auburn's currently playing. Florida's got a game still, as does Tennessee and Alabama. And I'm sure there's others, but you look at who's still alive from the Big Ten. Michigan State won last night after kind of looking kind of rough for the first half. Maryland is still in there. Wisconsin's currently playing. Let's see. Are they up? Nope, they're down right now, losing to BYU, but it's still relatively early, right? We've got 8 minutes left in the first half there. Purdue's still alive after Purdue and Illinois just like trounced their opponents. UCLA, Michigan, obviously. I'm just going by KenPom here. So anyway, the Big Ten just might be that group, right? Because you've already seen Texas A&M and Mizzou. And I'm sure there's others in there. Georgia, obviously, Oklahoma, all those teams are out. And Texas was out in the play-in. So maybe, just maybe, playing in the Big Ten actually that's the conference. Maybe it's one of those things, right? That might end up not going well if it ends up being a Elite Eight against Michigan State. Right, because Michigan, you hate to play them again and lose, but I know that's not anything Michigan fans are going to concede at the moment. But nonetheless, Auburn is 4 in KenPom. We're just going to assume that Michigan plays them right now. 29-5 so far in the season, but they lost 3 games to end the season. They're really good, though. Second best offense, 13th best defense. Michigan is slightly better, one better in defense, 12th, but 39th in offense. But here's the thing, that Michigan can kind of turn it on when it needs to. If I had to choose of the 4 teams that are the 1 seeds ranked in KenPom, I would choose Auburn at the moment. That's who I would choose to play. I would rather play Auburn than the 2 seed Tennessee at the moment. That's kind of where I'm at. Tennessee, I feel like, is playing a better brand of basketball. So, it's going to be tough. But the Wolverines just took down a team that in Texas A&M that had better metrics for the most part, looked better for the most part, and yet here we are. And I think by virtue, you look at some of the teams, Michigan's lost to, again, KenPom rankings, lost to 7th ranked Michigan State twice. They beat 10th ranked Maryland. They beat 12th ranked Wisconsin twice. They beat 15th ranked Purdue twice. Did lose to 16 Illinois and beat 18 UCLA. So they're no slouch. Now, have they beat one of the top teams? No, they have not. But you feel like this is a team that can do it at any point. If they take care of the basketball, make smart shots. Now, one thing that we didn't really see in this game was that what we saw against Purdue in the Big Ten championship game in particular, where it was kind of that ball spreading, take one dribble and pass it, and eventually you find the open man. This kind of felt like a tired team, which kind of makes sense because they had 3 games in 3 days last weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They flew to Denver on Tuesday. Wednesday, they're practicing up in altitude. And then they have Thursday, Saturday. Seems probably a little worn out. Now, at least, I don't believe they play until Friday in the Sweet 16. So you've got some time, no more altitude to deal with. That could actually weirdly be like for a, I might be reading into it too much. It could be one of those things where they might feel a little bit more fit having come down from a mile high because they'll be like, oh, we've got more oxygen being in Atlanta, being closer to sea level, all of that. And getting a little bit of rest and everything like that. And plus, it's a 1-game season, and you've already seen Dusty May's been a phenomenal coach. And can he game plan something that works against Auburn? I think it's possible. It's going to take everything they've got, and it's going to take all hands on deck, right? Like, you can't have Namari Burnett scoring 0. You can't have Trey Donaldson having an off game. You're going to need the bench to be really good. You can't have Will Shetter hoisting up threes that make no sense. He's going to have to hoist up threes that hit. That's the type of thing that it's going to take. It's going to take everything. And then it might take everything again, depending on if you win that game and go to the Elite Eight, it might take everything again. I understand for a lot of you, this is probably all gravy now. But if you can get this far, you might as well go further. That's kind of how I look at it. Because getting to the second weekend, that's nice. Sometimes it's just what it is. I like to refer to the 2017 team quite a bit. They lost by just the slimmest of margins to Oregon in Kansas City. Slimmest of margins. That felt like a team overachieving that got hot late. This isn't what that feels like, I don't think. This is a team that's achieved well throughout the year and just kind of fell apart at the end of the regular season, starting with that home game against Michigan State. And then has kind of recouped what they're capable of being now that it's the postseason. And like I said, every game in and of itself is a season unto itself. So you take it for what it's going to be. And it's not going to be easy, right? Because you look and you say, if you get Auburn, you're probably getting Michigan State next, probably. And then you're against the creme de la creme. But I think the Final Four is a shot. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But I think there's a chance. So it'll be interesting to see what they do from here. All right, that's going to do it for us with our post-game reaction. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.